Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 31st of July. All right, as we come into Tuesday's trading, now as expected, not a lot of activity during the sort of Monday. You know, Monday's always a feel out sort of period where traders are trying to work out what's going on. Funnily enough, the Euro did sort of manage to roll up towards resistance there around 117.20. It's just sitting underneath that at the moment. Aussie dollar, pretty stationary, and that's partly because of what the dollar offshore yuan has actually sort of really stabilised and started trading sideways. The Kiwi has managed to sort of get itself off the floor a bit and just trading up towards that resistance around 68.30, 35. Dollar yen, sure sign the trade wars are simmering at the moment, just trading sideways. But there's a huge amount of opportunity today around dollar yen, and I'll come into that in a minute. We've got the BOJ meeting. There's optimism of some sort of announcement from the BOJ. I don't think it's going to come, but in saying that, we are seeing, I did mention yesterday, the yen crosses were starting to set up very nicely for a potential move. Some of them have already moved, and I'll show you that as well. Dollar CAD, well, oil's back at 70 bucks. It's just sort of trading sideways to me with an overall downward bias, but there's a whole heap of geopolitical issues sort of simmering away there that we need to really, keep abreast of. And if I just come back over here to the news page, I'll give you a quick look at the what we're sort of talking about. At the moment, this is very common for Mondays, right, you get a lot of guesswork, okay? Like the dollar edges lower versus yen with BOJ decision on tap. Okay, the BOJ decision is later today, that's for sure. There's a chance they may do something, but there's always been a chance for the last 30 years. And it's very rare that they do things when the market expects it. I like to hit the market when it is pretty much asleep. But we'll have to sort of keep an eye on that. Now, sterling edges higher before Bank of England rate vote. Yeah, that's all they're doing is stating the facts here, right? As in, like, the obvious. Yeah, dollar CAD climbs a 7-week high on NAFTA optimism. I don't think that's the case. And that's pretty much where we are. There's still that OPEC sort of banging away with what they're doing with oil. Oil output hits 2018 peak. Well, you'd think oil would be lower, but it's not. So that doesn't sort of make sense either. So on Mondays, you get a lot of guesswork around what is going on. So as we come into Tuesday's trading, you can actually start to really piece things back together again. Okay, so what we're looking for is, and that's why I sort of generally start on the major charts, is having a look where the best opportunities are, and then connecting the data or the fundamental drivers to that. Now, talking about fundamental drivers, we've got, the US dollar just sort of drifting lower back towards that support, but it is basically just still trading sideways. We do need some solid US data or something from the Fed to give it some drive. Funnily enough, we've got the FOMC coming up and a whole raft, obviously the non-farm payrolls Friday. So will the dollar be here on Friday? I'd say not. I know the Fed are probably going to be consistent, which means higher dollar. Now, where the non-farm payrolls take it, that's the next thing after that. Now, here's the offshore yuan, okay, dollar China. Okay, so now we did see a little bit of a move higher yesterday. Took the Aussie and Kiwi just a little bit lower, but it is starting to trade sideways. Keep an eye on this as we go through the Asian session in particular. All right, that's where it's going to be most active. Now, as I was saying, if I just come back to, let me just clear some of those screens. Come back to where the focus is for today. Now, we do have some currencies with some good opportunities, okay, good correlating. All the majors are sort of pretty much correlating. Now we're sort of trying to match up the fundamental drivers to give us some sort of momentum because they're lacking a drive at the moment. Now, the Chinese manufacturing PMI, very important for the Aussie and Kiwi in particular. Now, that's coming out in a few hours, or 1 hour, 32 minutes. Keep an eye on that. And one thing that isn't on here, I mean, we do have the Eurozone CPI flash estimate and the CAD GDP later on, is the BOJ. Now, all central bank announcements are high impacting. I've left the BOJ off because they generally don't do anything, right? And I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So it's, regardless of what the media tells me, I will sort of always pay attention to what's going on. US equities were down, smalls again. The NASDAQ, third day in a row, losing more than 1%. So at the moment, the Nikkei, Japanese equity markets, right, very important for dollar yen and the Asian session. due to open up minus 60 points, right? So when you piece that together and you think, well, okay, that's great, but what else is coming out? Well, this is where what we've got is initially, we've got two potential events here. Now, if you look at the data here, now we've got some employment numbers out of Japan. Now, these are generally right on the money. And this is one of the big problems with Japan is they don't sack anyone. You could be 85 years old and you'll still have a job. You may only work 1 or 2 hours a week, but you've still got a job. So the employment numbers or the unemployment rate is always very low because it's just that respect for the elders and part of their culture. No one gets sacked. If you looked at the real unemployment rate in Japan and they did change the way they do things, which isn't going to happen, well, then it's probably up around 15%. But that's by the by. So anyway, these numbers, if there is some variance here in these numbers, okay, then we may see, so if we see stronger numbers, then we should see dollar yen a little bit higher. And that would sort of, probably see the Nikkei go into the positive. If we see weaker numbers here, well, then you would expect the Nikkei to fall and that should push dollar yen lower. Now, where I see a really good trading opportunity at the moment today is, okay, it's really about connecting the dots. Now, if you're just focusing on the major currency pairs, right, just coming back across here, you can see some currencies here. Now, in the Asian session, obviously the main drivers are going to be dollar yen, Kiwi, Aussie will be the major currencies that people focus on. Now, Aussie's sort of sitting mid-range. Kiwi, it's getting to the top here. So, you know what? Those Chinese manufacturing numbers will be very important for the Aussie and Kiwi. Dollar yen, on the other hand, is more associated with what's going on with the geopolitical issues and the safe haven mumbo jumbo. So you look at that, you think, well, that's really interesting, but where is the main raw nerve in this Asian session? Now, if I come across here, this is where you piece it together. And I was looking at this yesterday. If you ever look through yesterday's FX Market Insight, I was covering the yen crosses. Now, dollar yen is just simmering here. It's just trading sideways. But if we do get something out of the BOJ, right, and their releases are all tentative, there's no set times. In the old days, when they used to go in for the meeting, they would have the meeting, could last 4 or 5 hours. They would get on the sake before the end of it. And generally, when they used to come out, they used to be quite drunk. That's changed over the last sort of 20 odd years. But what we are seeing is sort of what I was pointing to yesterday. Kiwi's already sort of edged higher. Aussie, okay, we've got Chinese manufacturing data and the Japanese data plus the BOJ. If we get a run of strong numbers here, I think Aussie yen is definitely the best cross to be trading. I mean, we've already missed, and I don't usually get too heavily involved on Mondays, but I could see Euro yen was actually looking quite exciting. It's already popped to the top side. Sterling yen is definitely primed as well, okay? And CAD yen's already flown the coop as well. So to me, on the yen crosses, we've got a couple of really good opportunities here today, and that is Aussie yen and sterling yen, right? BOJ, if we get some sort of easing or change of policy, you generally see 100, 200 point move to the top side in dollar yen, and that could see the beast shoot to the top side. And these two pairs here, Aussie yen and sterling yen, look like the best entry levels at this point. All right, so that's how you sort of piece it all together. It's quite important you understand how to connect the fundamentals to the technicals. If you're just trading the major currency pairs against the US dollar, then you're going to miss some of these opportunities. All right, so make sure you, when you're in the MyFX Trading Hub there, make sure you have a good look around the upcoming events, because that's where traders at the banks change their focus. So as we go into the European session, we've got the Eurozone CPI. Now that's going to be important, obviously, following the ECB last week. We've got the CAD GDP figures, and then US consumer confidence. Now, don't forget, we've got the Fed and the Bank of England later in the week. That's going to be the high impacting opportunities for the currency. That's when the trends can change direction. But in the short term, we do have some good opportunities today, so make sure you tune in. The currencies, mate, they're trading quite nicely. We haven't heard much from Trump or China or anyone else for that matter. So we do have good trading conditions at the moment. All right, guys, so pretty exciting. This is a pretty big week as far as economic numbers go and everything else. So make sure you do go through your charts, get into that routine, identify the best pairs to trade, whether it's the yen crosses or the majors, and really start to connect the dots. It's starting to look pretty good. All right, guys, that's the FX Market Insight for today. good luck. I'll see you in the trade zone. If you have any questions, the guys are already in there, sort of putting out some good information across the pairs and trying to work out which ones are really the best opportunities. All right, guys, have a good one. We'll catch you later on. Cheerio.